Hello, welcome to our presentation on what you need to know about financial aid using information provided by the National Association of Student Financial Aid Administrators. My name is Katie Hieronymus, and I am the Director of Admissions, Registration, and Financial Aid at Minnesota West Community and Technical College. You can find us at www.mnwest.edu or by phone at 1-800-658-2330 or by contacting the Financial Aid Office directly at financialaid@mnwest.edu. Today, we are going to discuss different aspects of financial aid. Here is a rundown of the agenda for our time together. What is financial aid? What is your cost of attendance? What is the Student Aid Index? How do we determine financial need? The categories, types, and sources of financial aid. Information about the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid. And we will wrap up talking about some special and unusual circumstances. Let's get started by discussing what financial aid is. Financial aid consists of funds provided to students and families to help pay for post-secondary educational expenses. The amount and type of financial aid a school offers to a student is based on the school's cost of attendance, or COA. And the Student Aid Index, or SAI, as determined by information provided on the FAFSA. Let's dive in to cost of attendance. The cost of attendance, or COA, is an estimation of the educational costs a student is expected to incur while they are enrolled, and usually includes the costs for a full academic year. The cost of attendance consists of two types of educational costs: direct costs and indirect costs. Direct costs are billed by or paid directly to the college or university. For example, tuition and fees, on-campus housing, or school meal plans. Indirect costs are necessary or required expenses that are not paid directly to the college. For example, transportation, required licenses, required certifications or certification exams, professional credential costs, and personal care items. Colleges combine direct and indirect costs to create an overall cost of attendance. We also refer to this as the student's budget. The cost of attendance varies widely among colleges and universities, depending on their own tuitions, fees, and expenses. The Student Aid Index, or SAI, is the number that is calculated from the evaluation of a student and families, if the student is dependent, approximate financial resources for a student's post-secondary education. The SAI does not indicate what dollar amount the family is expected to pay to the college, but is used in determining a student's financial aid eligibility. The Student Aid Index is calculated using data from the FAFSA in combination with a federal formula. The SAI is the same, regardless of what college or university the student attends. The Student Aid Index is made up of two components: the parent's contribution for students who are considered dependent for financial aid purposes, and the student's contribution. The Student Aid Index will be calculated based on the information that you have submitted to the FAFSA and that is pulled from the IRS. By using these two numbers, the cost of attendance and the Student Aid Index, the college or university determines your financial need. The financial need is the difference that remains after the Student Aid Index is subtracted from the cost of attendance. Financial need will vary based on the cost of attendance of different colleges or universities. A student's remaining financial need determines how much and what types of aid a student may receive. Now, we will move on and talk about the categories of financial aid. Financial aid can be divided into two buckets: need-based aid and non-need-based aid. To receive need-based financial aid, a student must demonstrate financial need. A student demonstrates need through an analysis of their family's financial situation, generally through information provided on the FAFSA. Some schools may collect additional information to determine eligibility for any need-based dollars available through the school or programs. To receive non-need-based financial aid, the student does not have to demonstrate financial need. This category of financial aid may be offered based on a student's ability, talent, or unique characteristics such as academic achievements, athletic ability, musical talent, or ethical heritage, to list a few. Within these categories of financial aid, we have several different types. We consider these types self-help aid and gift aid. Gift aid is money that does not have to be repaid. Gift aid may consist of federal or state grants and scholarships. Self-help aid is money that is earned or borrowed. This consists of federal, state, or private loans and work-study employment. Let's dig into scholarships. First, scholarships do not have to be repaid. Generally, scholarships are based on merit, such as good grades, skills, whether or not they are work-based skills, or athletic skills, or unique characteristics. There are many different sources of scholarships. You can find scholarship information through your local organizations, your college or university, or often area employers. Scholarship applications should be completed by the student. It is important to pay attention to individual scholarship deadlines as they will vary. Grants are the second category of gift aid. Grants do not have to be repaid. Grant funds are provided on the basis of financial need as calculated using the data retrieved from the FAFSA. Grants may be available through state or federal student aid programs. Now, let's move to talk about self-help aid. First on the list is work-study employment. Work-study employment allows a student to earn money to pay for educational costs. They may be compensated by receiving a paycheck for work completed or in the form of non-monetary compensation, such as providing food and housing for a resident assistant position. Work-study employment may be offered through the college or university or an outside employer. Current rates of pay can be found on your school's website, as well as additional information regarding how to apply for work-study. The second kind of self-help aid are loans. Loans are money a student or parent borrows to pay college costs, which must be repaid with interest. Many consider loans an investment in the future of their education or child's education. The student may opt to borrow only what is needed or not at all. Repayment usually begins after the student's education is finished or the student stops attending school. Loans may be available through the federal government, your state government, or through a private lender. Let's now discuss the financial aid that can be provided or accessed through the federal government. The federal government is the largest source of financial aid. The majority of aid available is provided on the basis of financial need, which is determined by the information submitted on the FAFSA. Students must apply each year by submitting the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, at studentaid.gov. A student must meet eligibility requirements in order to qualify for federal financial aid. Examples of these requirements are: they must be a citizen or an eligible non-citizen as recognized by the United States. They must be enrolled as a regular student in a Title IV federal financial aid eligible program and school. They must be pursuing an eligible major. These programs or majors can consist of certificates, diplomas, associate's degrees, bachelor's degrees, or professional degrees. Federal student aid is divided up into several different programs. First off, we'll talk about the Pell Grant. The federal Pell Grant is the largest federal grant program. It is need-based aid that does not have to be repaid. Generally, the student may not have a prior baccalaureate or bachelor's degree to qualify for the federal Pell Grant. The dollar amount a student receives is based on a variety of factors, including the student's enrollment, their cost of attendance, their Student Aid Index, or SAI, their U.S. tax return adjusted gross income, their legal state of residence, family size, and tax filing status. The second type of federal funds we will talk about is the Federal Supplemental Education Opportunity Grant, or FSEOG. This grant is a need-based grant. Typically, a student needs to be eligible for a federal Pell Grant in order to have eligibility for an FSEOG grant. This grant is designed to target the neediest students. The dollar amounts and number of awards for each college or university is determined by that college or university based on the total amount of dollars they were allocated from the Federal Department of Education. Federal work-study dollars are a need-based student employment program. This allows the students to work on or off campus in positions designated by their financial aid department. These earnings that a student makes do not count against future federal student aid eligibility. Colleges and universities are responsible for setting the wage or rate of pay. Please look at your college or university's website for additional information on how to apply, what positions are available, and the hourly wage. Federal direct student loan programs are loans designed specifically for students. These loan programs have interest rates in terms that are typically better than commercial loans. For a federal direct loan, a cosigner and good credit are not required. The amount a student may be eligible for varies based on academic standing or grade level. Federal student financial aid requires students to maintain a minimum cumulative GPA of a 2.0 and a minimum cumulative completion rate of 67%. Direct subsidized loans are need-based, and the interest is paid by the federal government while the student is in school. Direct unsubsidized loans are not need-based, and the government does not pay for the interest for the student while they are in school. Repayment of federal direct loans begins 6 months after the student graduates or quits attending a post-secondary institution or is attending but is registered for less than 6 credits a semester. Finally, we have Federal Plus loans. Federal Plus loans are loans for parents of dependent undergraduate students and or graduate or professional students borrowing on their own behalf. A Federal Plus loan is non-need based. The amount a student is eligible for is based on the cost of attendance of that student's college or university minus the other aid they are receiving. The borrower must demonstrate good credit or have a credit-worthy endorser or cosigner. Repayment for parent borrowers typically begins as soon as the loan is fully dispersed. States often have their own financial aid programs available for students. In most states, a residency requirement will apply, requiring the student to be a permanent resident of the state in order to qualify for different state aid programs. States may use the information from the FAFSA and/or state aid applications to determine a student's eligibility. Deadlines for submission of state applications or FAFSA information may vary based on the state. Minnesota has 4 primary financial aid programs that we will briefly discuss. The Minnesota State Grant Program is a need-based program that is provided to the student determined by their financial need and also based on their number of enrolled credits. The Minnesota Self Loan is a loan program that is often recommended to students who need additional funds after exhausting their available federal direct loan dollars. The Minnesota Self Loan requires a separate independent application through the Minnesota Office of Higher Education. Starting for the 24-25 school year, Minnesota will have a new scholarship program designed to help Minnesota resident students offset the cost of tuition and fees. This new program is called North Star Promise. Your colleges and universities in Minnesota are working very hard to determine their processes while meeting the eligibility criteria of the state. Look for more information on this new scholarship to be coming as we get closer to the start of the fall 2024 semester. The Minnesota DREAM Act is a financial aid application for students who do not meet the federal eligibility requirements to receive student financial aid. Oftentimes, the student does not have a verified Social Security number, which prevents them from completing the FAFSA application. Please look at the Minnesota Office of Higher Education's website and search Minnesota DREAM Act for eligibility criteria specific to this program. Financial aid can also be obtained through private sources. Examples of private sources can include foundations, businesses, churches, civic organizations, and charitable organizations. It is highly recommended that students research what is available in their communities. Deadlines and application procedures may vary depending on each individual organization. Private donors often develop their own application and eligibility criteria and procedures. Students should start researching these opportunities during their junior year or early senior year to take advantage of as many financial resources as they can. Let's take a moment to pause here. This is a lot of information to take in. Please take a minute and review the information we have covered so far. As we continue on, we will move into the basics of filling out the FAFSA form.